Phase 2. Ray 2 Necromancy. Before time had a name, there was only the salt. Not white, but a deep, burning orange, endless. Infinite. Every dune is a memory that refused to die. The wind does not erode here, it remembers. This is the realm of the second ray, where death does not take. It preserves, look upon the flats, and understand. Nothing is ever truly lost. At first, you think the flats are empty, then you hear them. Not with ears, but with the salt in your blood figures, transparent. Standing just beyond sight, they are not lost souls. They are kept ones. The Ray 2 learned early that the dead do not leave. They linger as a whisper on the wind, waiting to be listened to, waiting to be honored. Then came those who understood. The first necromancers. They did not wear black. They wore the salt itself, linen dyed in iron-rich orange, faces painted like Anubis, guardians of the threshold. They knelt and learned that salt does not corrupt, it preserves. A body, a name, a story. They became the first archivists of eternity. Every salt crystal is a life. Hold one to the light, and you will see it. A child's laughter, a final prayer, a last touch of hands. The flats are not a graveyard. They are a library with no shelves, where every soul is a single, perfect, orange grain. The necromancers learn to read them, not with eyes, but with reverence. They built no pyramids of stone, but a temple carved from the salt itself. No walls, to keep the dead out, but pillars to invite them in. The temple of transition has no roof. Its ceiling is the eclipse of black moon and aqua blue moon. Here, they taught that dying is not falling down, but stepping across. A doorway, not a pit of eternity. The first doctrine is carved in salt at the temple's heart. We fear death because we misunderstood it. Death was never evil, never punishment. Anubis does not punish. He escorts. He protects the traveler. The second ray believed this, absolutely. Necromancy meant guardianship, not domination. To remember the journey they have walked, and the lives they have lived. When a life ended, they did not wail. They performed the ending. The body was laid upon the salt, and the community gathered, not to mourn what was lost, but to honor what was completed. Every story deserves a final sentence spoken with love. They believed an ending, done well, was the most sacred thing of all, for they knew this was not the end, but the beginning. Where one journey ends, one begins, to travel from one source of energy into another. The dead whispered through the winds, and the necromancers learned to listen, not in words, but in salt patterns, in the way dust moved, in dreams that tasted of orange. The flats are never silent. Every gust carries names. Every storm carries histories. The wind is the breath of all who were, still speaking. They keep alive that which has transitioned and been forgotten. They realized the flats held every soul that had ever lived, not metaphorically, literally, each grain, a person, billions upon billions of orange crystals, stretching beyond sight. A complete archive of existence, perfectly preserved by salt, no soul forgotten, no story erased. The library of every soul, open to anyone who knows how to kneel and read. Her name was preserved as salt. Mother, the first to hear the whispers and answer back. She did not raise the dead, she comforted them. She sat in the salt for 40 days until her own skin became crystal. When she finally stood, her eyes glowed orange, and she spoke the doctrine that would echo for millennia. Endings are sacred. Necromancy meant transition, transformation. The word itself was misunderstood by later ages. They thought it was about pulling back, but the salt flats knew. You cannot pull back what has been perfectly preserved forward. Death is a change of state, like salt dissolving and recrystallizing. Same essence, new form. Nothing ends, everything transforms. Only change is real, nothing is permanent. To harvest a memory, you must ask permission. The necromancers would kneel and place their forehead to the salt, and whisper, "May I remember you?" And if the soul consented, the crystal would grow warm, then glow with an orange bright light. They carried these warm crystals to the temple, not as trophies, but as guests. Every memory was a visitor to be housed, not owned. Before Egypt had canopic jars, there were salt jars, 4 vessels of orange crystal, each holding not organs, but essences, the last words, the dearest love, the unspoken apology, the final dream. Sealed with salt lids, they were placed in the temple to wait, not for the body to return, but for the story to be needed again, for the whispers of the lives that were lived in the era of understanding. Once a year, when the black moon eclipsed the red sun, the flats gave back. The ancestors walked, not as army, but as parade. Thousands of orange, lit souls, side by side, crossing the salt in silence. The living stood at the edge and watched their entire lineage pass, and they wept, because for the first time, they understood they were never alone. They had their own weighing of the heart, long before the Nile. But here, the heart was not weighed against a feather, it was weighed against a single grain of orange salt. If your life was as light, as essential, as perfectly preserved as that grain, you passed, not judged for sin, but measured for completeness. Did you answer the question of life? Did you complete your life mission? Did you finish your story? And then the salt. Mother revealed the final truth, the sacred lie they had all agreed to believe, that death was an ending at all. There is no end, she whispered. There is only the salt, remembering itself in new forms. We told ourselves endings were sacred to make them beautiful. But the real secret is, nothing ever ends. It only waits to be remembered. So they changed the ritual. They no longer buried the crystals. They planted them, each memory grain pressed into the salt, not as a grave, but as a seed. And from each, a faint orange sprout of light would rise. A new story beginning where the old one completed. The flats bloomed. For the first time, with light, and new stories were started. And as the light grew from a flicker to a blazing flame, the necromancers watched. When the first Egyptians came, exiled and lost, they found the necromancers waiting. And the necromancers shared everything: the preservation, the weighing, the canopic jars, the guardianship of Anubis, the belief that endings are sacred. The Egyptians carried orange salt from the flats to the Nile, and there, with river mud, they built their understanding of forever. And with the help of the necromancers, the understanding of life. So remember this, when you see a mummy, a pyramid, a book of the dead, you are not seeing Egypt's invention, you are seeing its memory of the salt flats, of orange deserts, where death was not feared, but tended. Of priests who believed that to preserve a memory was the highest prayer. Their legacy lives in every culture that dares to say, "You are not gone. You are not forgotten. Your story will be remembered." And now, the flats are empty again, or so it seems. Look closer. There, one single orange marble, perfect, glowing on infinite salt. It holds every soul, every whisper, every ending that became a beginning. Pick it up, and you hold eternity. Set it down, and walk away. The second ray fades to black. But the salt remembers. This is the end of Phase 2. Ray 2 Necromancy. Thank you for watching. The next ray we will get into is the ray of divination, which takes place in the acid fields and Hindu religion. Please like and subscribe.